Should I put my house in a trust or an LLC? So this is a very, very critical conversation. So I need you to get a pen and paper, and right after you hear it, you should probably call your tax strategist. If they're clueless, you click the link below in my description, you call our team, because I have the best tax strategist who can really give you a thorough and accurate assessment. So let's talk about three things. Asset protection, number one. Let's talk about the tax implications of it. And let's talk about the estate planning and the generational wealth planning of it. So this is a bigger conversation and a big decision whether you do it. So it's a bigger conversation than you just making up your mind yourself. You really need to involve me as a mentor coach, a really smart tax strategist, and whether you use a trust, an LLC, or both. So first, let's start with some definitions. So a trust, right? A trust is actually going to help you avoid probate. So I would say unanimously, let's just get that one out of the way. It's an absolute yes. I don't care if you have even 50,000 or 100,000 and a home, you got to have a trust. Because if you don't have a trust, 40 to 50% of everything that you own is going through probate. So why would you give the state 40 to 50% of everything you have versus give it to your family or your beneficiaries, whoever you want them to be, or even a charity? So a trust, let's just say yes to that exclusively. No matter what, yes, you all need a trust. So now it's going to break down the asset protection and the LLC part of it. So asset protection is essentially protecting your assets against creditors, people who might sue you. So for a house example, in your home, you have, frequently have people over, parties, whatever you do. If anyone gets hurt, they could sue you and take your house if it's not in an LLC. Now you can say, well, I have insurance. Typically, that's not going to be enough. Your insurance might cover part of it. Depending on the injury, they could take your whole house. So from that perspective, you put an LLC around it. Now, if you put an LLC around it, let's talk about the tax side of that. Then you actually give up the right as an independent owner, because if this is your primary residence, as an individual, you keep your house for 2 years and you sell it, you get to keep the first $250,000 tax-free. You can move it on to the next property. If you're married, you get to keep the first $500,000 and move it on to the next property without paying tax. So by putting it in LLC, you lose that benefit of being an individual or a married couple once you move your houses. Now, I have a lot of young married couples that are working inside of our community. Their whole strategy is to buy something that's kind of needs some fixing up. They live there for 2 years. They take the profits, 500, and they move to the next house. I've got individuals doing it as well, and they take the 250 and move it. So you lose that momentum of moving the money to the next place when you use that strategy and don't put it in LLC. Now, if you have an LLC, the benefit you can do is you can 1031 exchange it. Little different rules, and it's not like a set amount that you get to move on. So the tax implication of an LLC for your primary residence, it's a big deal. And it's not one that you make on your own. And typically you wouldn't make that in anything less than, say, a $500,000 property. Most people that have jumbo loans, depending on your state, you're talking 500 million, $500,000. Clearly the big multi-million-dollar houses, again, up to you and your tax strategist, could be considered an estate property and you put it in an LLC. Now, all LLCs should be held in trust. And again, I'm not giving you legal or tax advice. This is just how the rules of the road work. So all your entities are held in trust. Everything you own is held in trust. A will is part of the trust. A pour over will is part of the trust. I was talking to a couple last night. They're going to be joining our big table. They're like, yeah, we just went through it all set up. We have all of our will and all of our documents all set. I said, no trust? So you're not even close to being set. If anything happens to you, your state, and they're worth millions, your state's taking half of it. But you have two, kids in their 20s and 30s, and they're not going to get all of it because you didn't spend a little bit of money on a trust. So I want you to click on the link below. I want you to go to our Generational Wealth Systems company. I own a trust company. We do all the operational funding, and we have lawyers throughout all of North America that we can support you getting your trust set up legally. We can also help you get your entity set up legally and get that structured. Whether you put your home in a trust or an LLC, to me, they're not the same question. Trust, absolutely, no matter what. An LLC, it's totally a tax implication, in my opinion, and your CPA's opinion. It's also about generational wealth, right? What do you want to do with this estate? So do you want to keep it? Is it a family called, estate where you're going to go back to it for generations and generations and no one's going to sell it. And you can actually dictate that in your trust. You could say, this is an estate property that our family's going to keep for generations. We're going to come back here. We're going to have family reunions. We're going to do whatever things you want to do on that property. So if it's an estate property, then you would typically, I see 90% of those go into an LLC held in trust. If it's a property where you're going to move the 250 to 500 forward in a tax benefit, you don't put it in LLC. No matter what, 100% of the time, you have a trust. You guys got that? If I gave you a little quiz, would you get it? Do you have a trust? Yes is the answer. So before I continue and give you more of my $1 trillion tips and ideas and the way you can actually live corporate life through your house, I want you to subscribe to my channel. If you're enjoying this, click that notification button. Be here 5 days a week. Share it with people. And by the way, I am doing a huge binge watching competition, a really fun one. If you binge watch here for 25 hours, you're going to get $750 of credit toward a mentoring or coaching program, not toward a trust or an entity. That's a different company, different system, but mentoring and coaching, we'd love to help you get this right. By being a client of ours, you get to use our extraordinary experts, which range from self-directed IRA people, tax strategists, lawyers, corporate compliance, corporate structure, insurance, you name it. We're integrated in our wealth structures. So let us help you. And make sure you share this. Like the people that you spend time with, they influence you every day. So you can imagine if you have an estate property and it's in an LLC held in trust, and then a bunch of your friends are just renters or not even doing any wealth building. Like, why would you be hanging out with people who don't have any conversation in common with this and moving to generational wealth? Because really this whole topic is about generational wealth. So let's go back to that. So inside your trust, like I said, you can actually dictate whether this property is ever sold, how it's taken care of. Now, if you have multiple properties, there's too many people that are, I say, ignorantly wealthy and they have a second home. Why would you have a second home, not put in an LLC that you could either Airbnb, you could do some short-term rentals, you could put other people in that property. That whole thing is a tax deduction. So don't have a second home, right? Have properties in LLCs held in trust, and that is a better wealth building strategy. And like for me, my property is in an LLC held in trust, and I'm a renter. I've been a renter for a long time. So I'm a single mom that makes about $40,000 and I rent. So when I say own nothing and control it all, we're talking living corporate life and trust life at its fullest. So if you want to learn how to do that, go to my Millionaire Intensive. If you can only stay for the first 2 hours, make sure you stay. Come join us. Learn how to be a millionaire. Learn how these strategies really work. You cannot just hand this to your CPA and hope they're going to do it right. This is a plan for you and your family and your children. What do you want? How do you want to orchestrate it? How do you want it to be led? And that's up to you. You make the rules, they do the work. That's how millionaires roll. If you have any questions about this, go to AskLoral.com. I'd love to bring you live on my channel. Every second and fourth Tuesday, we bring people live on Ask Loral. We do little mini money makeovers. We can talk about your situation live. I do them personally, and I'd love to help you out. Talk to you tomorrow.